For those of you who are not familiar with this sign, it's normally amongst the Scouts a moment to be called to attention. I did see a few peace signs in response. They're also very welcome. We are in a church, so shalom, salam, peace be with all of you. It really is such a delight and honor to welcome you all here this afternoon to St. Barnabas Church for this very special presentation. Isabel K. Benjamin, First Lady of Irvington. It is my distinct pleasure to welcome in particular the president of the Irvington Historical Society, Veronica Gedrich. Welcome. Where are you? Welcome. Delighted to have you here. And thank you for all that you do to keep the memory and legacy alive of what it means to belong to this very special village. So thank you for your work and commitment. You have a wonderful team, I bet you do. And also Helen Ronsky, CEO of the Hudson Region Girl Scouts. Where are you? Welcome, thank you for being here. And thank you for all that you do to cultivate and encourage our young women and girls. Thank you so much for your commitment. And someone who really does need very little introduction, Joe Archino. He is the superintendent of the Irvington Recreation and Parks Department. Joe, I saw you a second ago. Where are you? There he is. Welcome, Joe. Delighted with us in particular because you do so much to enliven and inspire village life. And so it's a special honor to have you with us this afternoon. And so it's very fitting, actually, that we're gathered here at St. Barnabas Episcopal Church because Miss Benjamin was a child of the rectory. In modern terms, we describe her as a PK. She was born into the family of the second clergy family that lived here, the Benjamins, and she grew up here. And this church was her lifelong place of prayer, inspiration, community, and Christian commitment. She was very much a Christian woman of her time. She took what we call today the social gospel very seriously. And this was the idea that you could take your Christian faith and help to shape society and the wider culture based upon your vision of the Gospels, your vision of the goods contained within the Bible. And so she took her public life very seriously because she took her faith very seriously. And as we know, she took the cultivation and the leadership cultivation of young women and girls as her special calling and vocation. She founded the Girl Scouts here in Irvington in 1924. And that was very much an extension of her own belief in her own power, agency as a woman. She had, by all accounts, a formidable demeanor, a confidence that was sort of Victorian in its largesse, and a single-minded approach to life. As in, I bet you when she pulled her socks up in the morning, they were all the way pulled up, and she was up and at it, as we say today. Very clear that life is a gift. She saw life as a gift from God, and she didn't waste a minute of it. I do know that there are some of you here today who were under Miss Benjamin's mentorship, and I'm very much looking forward to hearing from those of you who knew her personally. We are, of course, very much looking forward to hearing from our Girl Scouts here today. Welcome, you three. Would you just like to say your names?
Well, I'm Lily Korb. I'm Elena Lark.
And I'm Suhani Arya.
Thank you, all three of you, for all your research, hard work, and commitment to bringing to consciousness the the life and times of Miss Benjamin. And so, without further ado, let us settle into what I know, because I've seen the rehearsals, is going to be a fabulous presentation. And thank you so much, all of you, for being here. Your presence this afternoon does not go unrewarded. For those of you who are able to stay, we're actually hosting an ice cream sundae in Colwell Hall, which you are all very welcome to stay for. So we're going to sweeten you up now. We're going to sweeten you up even more. You're going to go home happy this afternoon. So without further ado, let us begin this presentation. Isabel K. Benjamin, First Lady of Irvington. Keach.
Thank you, Garrett. My name is Keach Hagee-Harris, and on behalf of both the Irvington Historical Society and the Irvington Girl Scouts, I'd like to welcome you to this presentation of Isabel K. Benjamin, the First Lady of Irvington. Today, we mostly know her name from the Isabel K. Benjamin Community Center, which is the headquarters of the rec department. Most people here in town know. But as you will all hear in a moment, she was truly a character, a leader who was both utterly committed to following and enforcing the rules, and a trailblazer who bravely followed her own path in the face of the restrictive expectations of women of her day. Above all, she was committed to her community and to her girls, and it speaks volumes that today, nearly 100 years after she founded the Irvington Girl Scouts, her work continues to improve the lives of all young people here in the village, and especially the Girl Scouts who were so central to her life. So about 8 months ago, two of these Girl Scouts, Suhani Arya and Lily Korb, who are Girl Scout cadets in the 8th grade, they began researching the life of Isabel K. Benjamin for a silver award. Now, a silver award is the highest honor that a cadet can earn in Girl Scouts, and it involves a substantial community project of more than 50 hours that creates something of lasting value to the community. With the help of the Historical Society, especially Elizabeth Remsen and Chet Kerr, they put together a presentation board at the Society's booth at Rocktoberfest in September. And then in the last few months, with the help of Elena Lark, who has earned her silver award for a different project, but as you will soon see, has a natural gift for the stage, and Catherine Lark, who is their troop leader and the co-manager of the Irvington Girl Scouts, they have read Isabel's autobiography, combed through her many archives, interviewed former Girl Scouts who knew her, and woven it all together into a play, a format that was entirely their idea. We are delighted today that two of those former Girl Scouts, Susan Watson and Barbara Carosi, are here with us, as well as Joe Archino, the superintendent of the town's Recreation and Parks Department, whose questions about some strange plaques in the building about a year ago or 9 months ago sent us down the road that we are now on today. The rec has been an incredible partner to the Irvington Girl Scouts, particularly through its generous designation of Fridays at O'Hara Nature Center for the Girl Scouts as their home base, and through lending us the talents of CJ Riley, who has been creating amazing programs for us, from building a new trail system to doing maple sugaring, which itself is a Girl Scout Silver Award project made possible in part with help of Isabel's legacy. We're also honored to have Helen Ronsky, the beloved interim CEO of Girl Scouts Heart of the Hudson, here with us. So in the play you're about to see, the words of Isabel K. Benjamin are almost entirely her own, taken from her autobiography, From Dawn Till Twilight, and her book, Letters from a Pekingese, her letters and other archival material, much of which came from the Historical Society. We have tried to be true to Isabel's character, humor, and wit. It quite literally took a village to make this happen, so without further ado, I present Isabel K. Benjamin, First Lady of Irvington.
Welcome, everyone.
You may be wondering who I am. Well, hang tight as we take you through a journey of historical remembrance from 1912 up until the very present day. I've been informed that sometimes you use cell phones for flash photography. Please silence your phones and turn off your flash so those of you who are enjoying the presentation can continue to learn. Let us start at the beginning. a trip to the USA.
In 1912, Juliet Gordon Low returned to America from England with new inspiration and a dream.
I cannot wait to spread the young Girl Guides to the girls of America.
The Girl Guides were the precursor to Girl Scouts, and through her work with Lord Baden-Powell, founder of the worldwide Scout movement, Juliet Gordon Low got the inspiration.
Ah, how wonderful it feels to return to my hometown, Savannah at last. All girls from close to far are invited to come forth and join the Girl Guides. You may have seen boys take part in such activities as of camping, fire starting, and other outdoor activities, but there is no rule saying that girls cannot partake in the same.
In March 1912, Lowe telephoned a distant cousin who was a good friend and proclaimed,
I've got something for all the girls of Savannah, and all of America, and all of the world, and we are going to start it tonight.
On March 12th, she gathered 18 girls, and they were registered as the American Girl Guides. The girls loved the new organization, but midway through the first year, they asked if the name could be changed to Girl Scouts. Scouts reminded them of their pioneer heritage.
Wow, such fun! I've watched the boys' skills enviously for quite some time now and have longed to do the same. I would love to join.
As the support I gathered allowed me to grow my troops, one figure emerged, struck by the same flash of inspiration as I. Though Girl Scouts spread far and wide, there's just one place we'll be focusing on today, our town, Irvington, New York, where one troop leader rises above the rest. Isabel K. Benjamin. She begins her autobiography writing, "My favorite month is October.
My favorite occupation is gardening. My favorite amusement is the theater. My favorite dogs are Pekingese. My favorite drink is a mild cocktail. My favorite evening pleasure is watching my favorite constellations rise in the eastern sky. My favorite colors are the red, white, and blue of the American flag. My favorite books are many and varied. Biographies, poetry, Shakespeare, the world's greatest novels. Always a book by my bed. If the above does not please the viewer, you need not stay." Well then, as you all remained, let us proceed.
December 19th, 1924, Isabel K. Benjamin had just started her first Girl Scout troop, the Oak Troop.
I, Faith Whitney, am one of 8 girls hand-picked from Irvington High School to be in Miss Benjamin's troop. We are the best of the best, if I might say. I've heard many stories about the Girl Scouts, and I'm so excited to be accepted. Though this Thursday, January 17th, 1925 at 3:30, will only be our second meeting, I believe that the Girl Scouts will continue to grow. Girl Scouting way back in my day, when it first began, was very different from how it is today. We were led by Miss Isabel Benjamin, the fearless and sometimes scary captain of our troop. Everyone knew her in some way or another, but she was very, very involved with the community. She was a sophisticated, dedicated lady.
Being in one of my troops held the same prestige as earning a driver's license in the 1950s or being on a varsity team today.
Say, do you know what Girl Scouts had to wear back in my day? We liked khaki. The soft cotton made it much easier to move around in, and we developed a strong interest in outdoor activities such as camping and hiking, which we really loved.
Scouts were expected to wear clean, pressed uniforms, scarves tied just so, badges sewn on with military precision, and pins applied correctly, stockings,
We hate the stockings!
shoes shined, and hats worn at a precise angle.
Other than the stockings, we are proud of our uniforms and feel honored to appear in them. Our leaders wore proper uniforms too, although Miss Benjamin's uniform was tailored for her in a lovely, soft material.
Faith, where are your white gloves?
I'm really sorry, but I don't have them with me.
That's another demerit, Faith. Your carelessness could cost the Oak Troop the trophy at the rally next month. I penalized the whole troop for the carelessness of one. That way, the girls motivate each other to maintain my high standards.
Nowadays, Girl Scouts wear tunics, vests, or sashes over white shirts and khakis, and leaders wear their membership pins with navy attire. Actually, we never wear khakis. We prefer black leggings or jeans.
Isabel was a strong, independent woman who was known as the stickler for the rules. But she wasn't always that way. She was born on June 14, 1870, to Mary Isabel Rogers Benjamin and Dr. William Henry Benjamin, the second rector of this church, the Church of St. Barnabas. Her family tree is filled with many distinguished names, as she was fond of telling people.
I choose to live my life as did my ancestor, the good knight of medieval times, without fear and beyond reproach. I have thrived in life following this mantra. Should you disagree, I respectfully submit that you are mistaken.
On her mother's side, she was related to Emily Hosack, whose father was David Hosack, the doctor of Alexander and Philip Hamilton after their famous duels.
Perhaps they should have used a different doctor.
Emily was an ideal step-grandmother who hobnobbed with the Hamiltons, the mayor of New York City and governor of New York, famous actors and authors, including Fenimore Cooper, who wrote The Last of the Mohicans, and Washington Irving. Yes, the Washington Irving. On her father's side, her Uncle William and Aunt Charlotte Prime lived in a Benjamin family summer home, Ienia, on the bank of the Hudson River.
You may know it as the 10,000 square foot, 14-bedroom home that former Governor George Pataki lived in.
I could talk for hours about the Ienia family, with whom I always spent Christmas. When dozens and dozens of us were gathered, we called it Benjamania. One Christmas, we were 42 at one table, not even including the children, and I heard a mother say, "Cousin Isabel must have come. The boys are getting so naughty." At that time, practical jokes could be bought for 25 cents each, and I enjoyed indulging in this spending.
Young Isabel was a tomboy, and early Irvington made a perfect playground for someone with her need for speed.
We children had lots of fun in the winter. There was plenty of ice and snow in those days. We coasted on our sleds down one long ride from the top of Stearns Hill.
That's where the high school is now.
Across Broadway as all sleighs stopped for us to pass.
Remember, this was pre-cars, so people traveled up and down Broadway in horse-drawn sleighs in the winter.
And down Tiffany Lane to the river.
Imagine sledding all the way from the high school down to Matheson Park.
Isabel attended the master school in Dobbs Ferry, which at the time was known as a finishing school since women typically did not go to college. She respected Miss Masters. All the girls did, but she rebelled against her rules.
Well, come on. No talking with any girls during study hall, not even smiling. And I hated to have every difficult Bible question thrown at me because I was a priest's daughter.
So she switched to her governess and then to a school in the city where she was finally happy.
Women of Isabel's time were expected to do two things: get married and have children. They did not have the right to vote. However, Gilded Age women were becoming college educated and longed to contribute to society through charitable works. These trailblazing women created opportunities for the next generation. This is the path that Isabel chose.
I had several men and boyfriends who have meant a great deal in my long life, but I never could bring myself to say yes when any man friend asked me to share his heart and home. Twice I came near saying yes, but I'm always glad that I said no, thank you. I fell deeply in love at various times in my life. Always it was a lovely woman older than myself.
One of Isabel's favorite places was Lake Minnewaska and Mohonk Mountain, which she considered a place of unique beauty filled with many special memories.
I stand by that assessment, and I've been to Switzerland.
She spent her days there competing in sports, often with men.
I won boat races and foot races until one day the men put up a note on their bulletin board. Isabel Benjamin is requested not to enter the men's races.
It was also here that we believe she found her first love, a woman named Elizabeth, also known as Lila, Walsh.
She was beautiful, with a remarkable mind and an intense appreciation for what is beautiful in literature and nature. I fell deeply in love with her. Our days together at Minnewaska, the hours I spent in her apartment in New York, her weekly letters, even when she was abroad, all made me very happy and enriched my life more than I can ever express.
Rather than marry, Isabel enjoyed the arts and theater and put her energies into her church and her community, volunteering extensively and teaching Sunday school here at St. Barnabas from ages 13 to 53.
Let's step back in time to 1852. John McVicker appointed his son, William McVicker, missionary in charge of the school for this area, which was in the part of the building where you are seated, called the nave. St. Barnabas was incorporated and McVicker served as its first rector until 1867, when Dr. Benjamin came to Irvington.
Dr. Benjamin served as rector for 40 years and loved his parish. Among his achievements were the additions where we are standing, paying off debt, establishing an endowment fund, the purchase of the rectory, the building of a parish house, and the beautiful memorials that most of the stained glass windows that adorn this church.
Excuse me, I was given $2 and a trowel to start a parish house. A few of us girls set up a fair and added $100 to the fund. Then the parishioners woke up and the parish house was built. Alas, in a renovation in 1945, the memorials were taken down and still have not been restored to this day.
The Benjamins' many friends through St. Barnabas included influential businessmen, civic leaders, and prominent New York families, who were very generous toward the rector and his family. For summer trips to Europe, J.P. Morgan's brother George would hand Dr. Benjamin a blank check. Philip Schuyler left $10,000 to Miss Benjamin upon her husband's death.
Historical Society members here today know that Jay Gould purchased the land between St. Barnabas and the Irvington Presbyterian Church and divided it between them. Could you imagine if a tavern had been built between these churches? But let me tell you something about the Gould daughters. Helen was a noble citizen, respected by everyone. Her sister Anna married into French nobility, so she would have a title. Then took over Lyndhurst, the Gould estate. At first, she seemed friendly, and at the luncheon I gave for her, she gave me a $100 bill to use for Girl Scout camping. But as time went on, she would not lower herself to mingle with people from Irvington and apparently filled her house with French people.
That's about the only diss in her autobiography. Maybe she didn't like Anna Gould because of Anna's obsession with fashion.
The folks at Lyndhurst would like to mention to us that they feel Miss Benjamin's characterization of Anna is unfair. She did not fill her house with French people so much as French furniture.
Prominent families would rent pews as a source of income for the church, and the seating order was not to be violated. I remember seeing the Alexander Hamiltons, Schuylers, Fargos, and Morgans in their pews. And of course, Susan Watson and her family, the Waterburys. It's always lovely to see you, Susan. As family of the rector, this was our pew.
From her pew, Miss Benjamin could jump up and take communion before anyone else. She grew up in this church and was always first for communion. Always first.
There are no points for second place, dear. I knew 7 rectors after my father. When their families wanted to sit here, I let them know that this was still our pew and that they were welcome to sit there. Yes, I was raised at St. Barnabas and directed the Altar Guild and St. Agnes Girls and chaired countless Sunday school and choir events.
Have you all heard about the ghosts of St. Barnabas? Former rector Charlie Colwell and his wife Judy told us that they never believed in ghosts until they came here. Their daughter, Amanda, would wake up from naps asking, "Why doesn't that woman ever speak to me?" She described an elderly woman with her gray hair in a bun, knitting in a rocking chair, who would stare at her. The Colwells assumed it was an imaginary friend, but when Amanda saw this picture of Isabel's mother, she screamed, "That's the woman I was telling you about, the woman who used to rock and knit in my room. I know you never believed me, but that's her."
Judy also told us about the time the head of an elderly woman with her hair in a bun suddenly appeared next to the television set and stared at Judy for several seconds before disappearing. Judy said Isabel's mother was looking at her quizzically, as though wondering why she was up so late.
Over the years, ghosts have made their presence known through a number of antics, such as turning the water on full blast, changing the thermostats, messing with the organ settings, appearing in the church and startling your workers, playful things like that. Everyone who has felt a presence or seen a shadow that you can't explain here at St. Barnabas, please raise your hand. In 1907, when Isabel was 37 years old, her father died. She and her mother moved out of the rectory shortly after into a house on Riverview Road, purchased for them by her mother's friend, Mrs. George Lewis.
There have been several sightings of a person or a shadow, possibly Dr. Benjamin, walking from the front of the church, behind the altar, right through the wall into the sacristy.
So I gave the carved oak door back there in memory of my parents and had it placed in the exact spot where the shadow passed through the wall. Should anyone see a shadow behind us, please tell them to use the door. Oh, and if anyone in the back feels an icy chill that makes the hair on your arms stand up, be not afraid. That's just my mother, looking for a place to sit, because someone is seated in our family pew.
The new home brought new opportunities for Isabel. Namely, the chance to own dogs.
I had always wanted a dog, but my mom was against it because she was afraid of getting much too attached. She was won over by an enchanting Pekingese that J.P. Morgan gave to our cousin. After that, she said, if we ever had a dog, it had to be a cute Pekingese.
Isabel raced to a kennel in Hartsdale and purchased and bred her first Pekingese, named Fanchi. Before she knew it, she had 4 of them, became a blue ribbon shower, and was serving on the board of governors of the Pekingese Association of America. She even wrote a book from the perspective of one of her dogs that sold well.
We don't have enough time to explain Isabel's obsession over the proper care and showing of Pekingese, and frankly, none of us want to discuss the regularity and free bowels of her dogs. The book gives insights into her attention to detail and views on childcare. For instance, Isabel wrote that she and her mother trained the dogs to be observant of the world around them, so they would not have to be entertained all the time, like some unimaginative children.
My mother loved my dogs, and their personalities meant a great deal to her, though I once heard her say that their births, deaths, and marriages upset her nerves.
Isabel advocated for the prevention of cruelty to animals through her numerous positions with the ASPCA, Western Westchester Humane Society, and Young Defenders League. She educated Irvington youth on the care and treatment of animals and was against children receiving chicks or bunnies as gifts at Easter. She wrote a letter to the editor asking that dogs not to be put on leashes in hot weather.
I have walked up and down Main Street probably more than anyone and have never been viciously attacked by a dog. A dog may snap harshly at an overly friendly child to say, "Leave me alone," but I put all the blame on the parents who should train their children never to handle a dog they do not know. I hope and pray that man's best friend will not be confined to a leash in Irvington.
Isabel was ahead of her time, leading efforts to educate animal owners on the proper care of animals.
I hope our Irvington residents will see that after I go, birds are fed in winter, and the dogs, baby robins, and my other animal companions will not miss me.
In 1918, her mother suffered a series of strokes. Shortly after, she passed away and was buried at Sleepy Hollow Cemetery.
Without her mother, Isabel was lonely, so she started working.
I lived primarily on trusts from family and friends, including Fanny Cottonette, who was like a sister to me. But with problems on Wall Street and the price of everyday necessities rising higher and higher, you are familiar with inflation, yes? I had to give up my interests and get a real job.
She was appointed by the Board of Religious Education to become a teacher of Sunday school teachers. She was also in charge of religious instruction at Miss Mason's Castle School for girls in Tarrytown. She took a 4-year correspondence course on religious education with yearly exams.
No woman of character can make the excuse that she is too busy to spend 1 hour per day from October to June to attempt systematic Bible study. A study in the Bible vitalizes and deepens everything else that is good in life.
Isabel, are you suggesting that women should spend 1,100 hours over 4 years studying the Bible?
Indeed. The work is thoroughly churchly. And for the only time in my life, I passed a final exam with honors. I have a very important-looking certificate.
With all of the misspellings in Isabel's autobiography, it may be the only honor she ever earned at school. In fairness, Bishop Manning wrote to Isabel that the influence of your home and parish and the unusual experience with young people which you have had have singularly prepared and fitted you for this important work.
Around this time, she had bought a Dodge car and received 2 driving lessons from the man who sold it to her.
Miss Benjamin nearly landed us on the railroad tracks, and she smashed a policeman's signal lantern.
I went back for another lesson. And a different teacher. The people at the garage said that it would be better to send an unmarried man.
Feeling the need for speed, Isabel later purchased a Hudson Hornet. However, years of experience apparently did not improve her driving ability. Her head just barely cleared the steering wheel because she was so petite. And she would drive down the middle of the road and stop wherever it suited her to point out trees and things as she went careening down Broadway. Harriet Kelly said, "I was not surprised that Miss Benjamin's license was revoked. It probably saved a few lives."
It was not a proud moment when my license was revoked. Why did they have to put that in the newspaper?
Folks in the know at St. Barnabas say that Isabel continued driving her whole life, even after her license was revoked. And she concluded her autobiography with these words,
"And please drive carefully."
Cragsmore, in Ulster County, was one of the first artist colonies, attracting established New York artists looking for a place to be inspired during summer months.
I first went to that beautiful mountaintop in 1919, after my mother passed away, and I've been going up there every summer since. I love Cragsmore, and I have very many good friends up there. As for those young whippersnappers who call us hat-wearing, book-reading, single old ladies, I blame the parents for failing to train their children in fear of the Lord.
The Cragsmore Stone Church was Isabel's summer house of worship, which she attended with Julia West, who founded the New York Altar Guild to install altars in prisons and on ships.
The organization, which still exists today, purchased a stone church during a time of need. Julia was president, and Isabel was corresponding secretary, and each was known as a woman of exceptional character and great spiritual depth.
Julia was a very close friend of mine, and she and I shared a cottage together for 3 summers.
Following Julia's death in 1930, the Altar Guild, with Isabel's influence, erected a beautiful arch in her memory. With Deacon Jeffrey Slade wrote, "Continues to inspire and amaze more than 85 years later." Benches behind the arch faced the valley, providing a serene place where the hat-wearing ladies could read and remember Julia.
The theater at Cragsmore has given me much pleasure. One year, the actors came to Irvington. My cousin Sam was part of the troupe. Later, one of the most charming actresses on the New York stage gathered a few of her professional friends and for 2 years in succession produced plays for the benefit of Girl Scouts in our Irvington Town Hall. This was a first, and I made it happen.
Cragsmore historian Sally Matz told us about a fire not far from Isabel's cottage. Neighboring men and boys were expected to put out the fire, but little old Isabel came running over in full uniform shouting, "I am a Girl Scout! I will put out the fire!"
No fear.
Isabel's many prominent friends included progressive rebels such as Kate Carey, the philanthropist, and horsewomen who repeatedly beat every man who dared ride against her. Catherine Dewar Blake, who made suffrage safe for society women who thought the cause was too radical, and Elizabeth Marbury and Elsie DeWolf.
Elizabeth was a highly successful talent agent and producer at a time when it was not socially acceptable for women to work in the theater industry, and Elsie was equally successful as an interior designer. They lived together openly as a couple. These trailblazers defied expectations for women and paved the way for women's independence.
I hope Kate knows the comfort her generous legacy has been to me. And oh, how I loved the delightful and sparkling breakfast given by Elizabeth and Elsie. They came to lunch with us one day, bringing their 2 little dogs who scampered on the lawn.
In 1924, realizing that the girls of Irvington needed what she called something of worthwhile interest, Isabel went and visited her friend Sarah Birdsall Otis Eady, known as Bird, an active leader who became president of the Girl Scouts of America.
Bird was a prominent supporter of women's suffrage and a devoted lover of Pekingese. We competed against each other at shows. When I walked into her office, she said, "Sit down. You are just the person I want."
Bird sent Isabel to be trained in the ways of the Girl Scouts.
I was 54 years old with the life expectancy of 61 when I started with 8 intelligent girls who I had hand-selected from Irvington High School. They helped me train 8 more the next year.
The local organization grew into a council spanning 4 towns, Irvington, Dobbs Ferry, Hastings, and Ardsley, with some 200 girls.
They're a grand set. Troubles, if any, never many, usually start at home because of disturbances there. I run the Scouts like I run my own affairs, without fear and beyond reproach.
With an iron fist.
Miss Benjamin, as they called her, set a very high bar for her Girl Scouts.
I've always held 4 standards before our troops. 1, duty to God. 2, high standards in all work. 3, discipline. Demerits for any late attendance, incorrect uniforms, or absence. 4, good fellowship among us all. All for one and one for all, ladies.
Huzzah! Troops with the fewest demerits were rewarded at annual rallies. We learned Morse code and signaling with semaphore flags, and held many signaling competitions.
Signaling competitions among rival councils We're more intense than a Harvard versus Yale football game.
We don't earn badges for Morse code or semaphore flags anymore. We text each other on our cell phones, but there isn't a badge for that. Our vests even have cell phone pockets.
I think I might like a cell phone. May I see that device? Where is it? There it is. Oh, let's see here. I think I'm going to take a selfie. Everybody lean in. Perfect. There is nothing more important than character in determining who is to become a first-class scout. Having earned the required number of badges, doing the minimum work required is not enough. Girls should also volunteer for charitable works and attend weekly religious services.
Irvington Girl Scouts started requiring letters from parents explaining what was happening in the house to prevent their daughters from attending weekly religious services or attending weekly meetings in addition to scout activities. And Isabel, your co-leaders feel that 1 year's training ought to be sufficient for the girls to advance. And if they're not ready, it's a reflection on the leadership.
Poppycock. I will test all the girls using a universal standard, and I will decide accordingly. It is those girls who go the extra step who will merit the title Girl Scout.
Badges of our day included child nursing and knowing how to throw a tea party. We did community service, and of course, we learned business and interpersonal skills through the cookie program.
Some things haven't changed. We earned the babysitter badge and do community service, and the Girl Scout cookie program is the biggest girl-run business in the world. Today, we also earn badges for things like building rockets and learning to code, as well as the classics like fire starting, camping, and plant identification.
Irvington Girl Scouts had travel opportunities that were not provided by the schools. You would not have an 8th grade DC trip, but senior Girl Scouts traveled to DC annually. And we went to Philadelphia, Boston, Mystic, and even the Caribbean. Closer to home, they volunteered at the Anne E. Poth Nursing Home, today known as the Madam C.J. Walker Home.
Well, my troop is trying to get to Savannah to see the Juliet Gordon Low House. How did you pay for these trips?
Cookie sales. And you know that annual Christmas tree sale at the church in Dobbs Ferry? That was our big fundraiser. Until it became unmanageable and the dads got cold safeguarding the trees overnight in the park. Miss Benjamin was involved with Rock Hill Camp, served as a scout captain at council, and as a director of the Mandate Council of Westchester County's Girl Scout activities. Many of Miss Benjamin's former scouts say they were enriched by her instruction and example, grew strong in character, and were happy to be one of her Girl Scouts. But you don't have to take my word for it.
We spoke to many former Girl Scouts who knew Miss Benjamin, including Joan Lobdell, Betsy Wilson, and Harriet Kelly. We are fortunate to have two of them with us here today, Susan Watson and Barbara Carosi.
Joan Lobdell credits Girl Scouts for teaching her skills she went on to use in her career as an occupational therapist. She recalls the Girl Scouts marching and marching and marching to prepare for the parades down Main Street, feeling proud when the Girl Scouts marched right past the Boy Scout troops that were passing out in the heat.
Isabel K. Benjamin maintained the highest standards for the Girl Scouts, and sometimes other kinds of scouts too. In 1952, she wrote a letter to the editor of the Irvington Gazette complaining about the behavior of the Cub Scouts during the annual Memorial Day parade.
Betsy Wilson recalled the time the Cub Scouts got on Isabel's bad side, so she banned them from the village's Memorial Day parade. In protest, they rode their bikes behind the parade and put cards to flap on their spokes so they would make a terrible, obnoxious noise the whole way.
The Boy Scouts did credit to their training, and I hope the Girl Scouts did the same. The Cub Scouts were a disgrace. Shouting, tossing hats, knocking one another down. The boys clearly lack leadership and discipline. I trust that these few words from a lifelong citizen of Irvington may lead to better realization by parents of their responsibilities in training future citizens. Very truly yours, Isabel K. Benjamin.
Later in her life, Isabel downsized to an apartment in Hudson House. Her loyal maid, Margaret, moved with her, along with her dog, Timo.
The apartment is enchanting. Lovely lawns, birds at my window, post office and railroad a few steps from my door, eastern sun pouring in my window and the river running by.
One February day in 1961, she was out walking her dog and slipped on the icy sidewalk. She died in the hospital not long afterward. She was 90 years old. She left a small trust benefiting her two great loves, the Altar Guild of St. Barnabas and the Irvington Girl Scouts.
Today, the Isabel K. Benjamin Fund helps underwrite the costs of activities for the Irvington Girl Scouts and ensures that girls can participate no matter their economic circumstances.
Shortly after Isabel's death, the Irvington Youth Center, a private organization that had run recreation programs in the village, bought the building on Main Street that had formerly been St. Paul's Methodist Episcopal Church and turned it into the headquarters of a new village department, the Irvington Recreation Department. Isabel had been collecting donations privately to fulfill her dream of an Irvington Scout House. Those funds were contributed to the purchase of the building, which was meant to be a place and room of their own for the Irvington Girl Scouts. To honor her legacy of civic leadership, it was renamed the Isabel K. Benjamin Community Center.
There is a saying that if you're remembered by even one person after you die, you will live forever.
I, and others like me who were privileged to be Girl Scouts during Miss Isabel Benjamin's time, will remember her forever. She will live forever. Susan and Barbara, would you please come up and share for us what scouting was like under Miss Benjamin?
Struggling a little with this chair.
Yeah, they're coming right up.
There we go.
My name is Susan Watson, and I knew Miss Benjamin for many years. She was my Sunday school teacher, my scout leader, and she was head of the Altar Guild, which I had belonged to for 66 years. I really admired her. I thought she was a wonderful lady, but I was also scared of her. She was a stickler for rules, and she expected perfection from those girls that she taught. And you better behave. She was dedicated to the girls in Irvington. And as a scout leader, she'd line up the troops. I was a member of the Oak Troop, so Wednesday we'd line up, and there she would be, marching back and forth. She'd check your uniform, she'd check to see your shoes were shined, then you had to show your hands and your fingernails. Anyway, you'd get a demerit, and if you got a demerit, it counted not only against you, but against your troop. This sort of reminds me of my favorite story about Miss Benjamin. Actually, it's about me, my most embarrassing moment. I was at Dow's Lane School and late for Girl Scouts. So I ran like crazy and I jumped over a fence and ripped the back of my uniform. So as I arrived, I thought, if I just sort of backed up, maybe she wouldn't notice. But I had this rip right down the back. Unfortunately, she did. And I got 2 demerits, one for my uniform and one for being late. I should have stayed home. I'd only get 1 demerit for that. Miss Benjamin loved to do her semaphore flags and send messages. And she would run, literally, across Broadway in front of the old Lich Gate, up the hill to Mrs. Rudder's estate. And there was sort of a dirt and gravel road that went up to this big, big house, dark and kind of scary, actually. Mm-hmm. But she'd stand up there at the top of the thing, and she'd flip things around, and we're all trying to, the different troops are all trying to write down what they think she's saying. And that whoever won in the end got the badge for flag interpretation, so to speak. Mrs. Rudder was one of Miss Benjamin's good friends, and she was had this huge house, and several times a year she would invite 4 or 5 girls with Miss Benjamin to come to formal tea, and she'd have little sandwiches and cookies and have silver service out, and the room was so dark you could hardly see any of it, but it was quite an experience. And as she would serve us tea at the end, she would unwrap this little package and pass it around, and it was George Washington, a lock of George Washington's hair. Now, I don't know, does the Historical Society have it? I don't know where it is, but Miss Benjamin took us there every year, and that was great fun. My other memory of Miss Benjamin was for the altar guild. She would direct us and teach us, and we had tests here and there, and you had to know exactly how to set up for communion. And to this day, I'll go back in the back room in the sacristy, and every once in a while I'll be there alone, and you sort of think someone's looking over your shoulder. And I'm sure it's Miss Benjamin making sure I did it right. Those are my memories, and now for yours.
Okay. Well, my memories of Miss Benjamin are probably not as, like Susan's, very similar in some respects, but as far as the inspections, do remember that. Hands out this way, that way. The tie just so, the pin centered just so on your tie, all of that. But now at my age now and raising kids and living life, I'm thankful for those life lessons that she taught us that stayed with you, right, Susan? I mean, absolutely. Over the years, just like Susan feels like sometimes she feels Benji is looking over her shoulder or whatever. Very often when I do something at home or in the community or something, I think Benji would be happy. This is how she would do it, And so all these years later, she's still a force in our life. You know what I mean? I have wonderful memories, good memories of her. And I'm thankful that she played a part in my life, in my growing up. She certainly was instrumental. My favorite memory, I think, of Benji was, and pardon me for calling her Benji, I would never, ever do that to her face. But amongst ourselves, we did have this little thing that we referred to her as Benji sometimes. And my favorite memory was she invited, I think, about 5 of us up to Cragsmoor, which was a real big deal for us. And so we went up and we had a wonderful time. Got to be evening. Benji went in the house and we were out on the field. And we were not in a tent. I think we had a blanket. To tell you the truth, I cannot remember. I think we probably put a blanket on the ground. 5 of us plopped down on that blanket. We might have one to cover us. Bottom line was, we wake up in the morning and all of us have this white around our mouth. And I'm looking at you and you're looking at me and we're like, what the heck is this? It was frost. I kid you not. From our breathing, the condensation around our mouth. Well, to this day, when I meet some of my friends, I'm still in touch with all of these people, or most of them, I should say, that invariably comes up. And we laugh like we did 60, 70 years ago, whatever. And so I'm thankful for Miss Benjamin being in my life. And I think my favorite memory was camping at Cragsmoor, and then also being in the car with her, which was a trip. She was noted for a lot of wonderful things. We all loved her. Anybody who was under, we loved her. but she was not a driver, you know? And so we'd get in the car, but we all drove with her. We got in the car. I mean, I drove to Craigsmoor up in the middle of Sullivan County, I think it is, with her, with my friends. And we made it and got back alive and everything. But she used to drive with the Pekingese on her lap, with the dog's head out the window, and she was barely above the steering wheel. I mean, you really could see this massive white coming, her beautiful white hair, and her like this. You know, I mean, right, Susan? Do you remember seeing her like
I was never allowed to get in the car with her.
Oh, Susan, you missed it. But anyway, you can see that anybody who experienced Isabel K. Benjamin in their life are blessed. She was a force. She's still a force in our life and will always be. And I would just like to close with just a brief thing, because I know Joe Archino is here, and I was just thinking about the building. I'm delighted that the community center is named in her honor and in her memory. I love that, because she certainly gave so much to our village and our community, the girls, and her church here at St. Barnabas. And it's only fitting, I think, that the community center, where everybody is welcome and can come and do their thing and whatever is going on there, and it bears her name. It's also the church that my husband and I got married in. And yes, and we were the last couple to get married in that church, serving as a church. The next day, we got married on September 4th. We went away for a week's honeymoon. We came back for the last worship service it was St. Paul's Methodist Church. Then we went to the worship service on the 11th and took off for another week of our honeymoon. And when we came back, it was now the Isabel K. Benjamin Center. So it kind of came full circle in my life. Thank you.
Well, we thank you, Susan and Barbara, for speaking with us today. And on that note, we would like to invite Joe Artino, Irvington Superintendent of Recreation and Parks, to join us. Joe, please come up.
I'm not afraid of ghosts. I'm afraid of Isabel K. Benjamin. Girls, you were wonderful, by the way. You really were.
Yeah, really. Absolutely. Yeah. Great. Yeah.
I'm actually very excited to be here. I wasn't ready for seeing so many faces that have been part of my past in Irvington, from Barbara Wright to Doug and Betsy Wilson. Bob Pouch is here. I go way back. Since August 18th of 1986, I have called the I.K. Benjamin Community Center my second home. It's where my office has always been. It's where I hope I'll stay until the last day I'm working in Irvington. So, I've always had that connection, and it's a very important one to me. What I really want to talk about today, though, is the things that Miss Benjamin stood for, and tell you a little bit about what the current Girl Scout program is doing and is all about. It is quite remarkable when you do what my department does and someone walks through the door, you never know what's coming your way. A lot of times it's people asking for things but not willing to sweat. When Catherine or Keach come in and have an idea, you have no chance. You better listen, because they're not going to leave you alone, and they're going to make sure they get what they want. The Girl Scouts aren't just a group that use the O'Hara Nature Center. The Girl Scouts are now our partners. We look at everything we do with them as being a partnership. If you've ever are around to go on a Friday to see some of the things they've done, it's remarkable. They helped tap 40 trees to create 1 gallon of maple syrup. And if you're going to the social later, I have one of the jars which they made, and it's actually, girls, you can tell them, it's delicious. It's amazing. But the fact that they did that, they've held sleepovers. Some of the photos of the tents in the back of the nature center, it's showing what the girls did, bonfires. There's things that I think Miss Benjamin would have been so proud of. The Girl Scouts helped bring back window decorating to the village. We hadn't had it in over 15 years. We reached out to Catherine and Keach and said, we really think it's time. They jumped right in. How many of you know the Girl Scouts are one of the sponsors of the Pete Oley Turkey Trot? Right? And have been for many years. You know, they are a huge part of the community. And the thing that about them that I like, and it really went with one of the comments that was in the skit that the girls read. And, you know, back when I had to create in college my philosophy of recreation, I simplified it and I believe it. And I think the Girl Scouts live it. It's to lead or follow, and if not either of those, get out of our way. And I believe that 100%. There's always a way to get something done. There are always good people in this community who will step up and help to be part of what you're trying to do. And I've seen it time and time again. We've had a lot of sad moments. The Benjamin Center, things that I remember about it, it was the first place that the brokenhearted community came together to create what is now still known as the O'Hara Foundation, which is one of the things nearest and dearest to my heart. And I'm still consider the family and everyone connected to them to be some of my best friends in life. But we started it there in that building, and that's something that was quite special. Every special event the village runs starts at 71 Main Street. Whether it's getting equipment in for the youth baseball program, or getting the baskets ready for the holiday delivery program, or getting the food ready for a food drive. No matter what we do, that building is our springboard. I don't know what we would do without it. We're blessed with the Senior Center. We're blessed with the O'Hara Nature Center. But the Benjamin is Main Street. The Benjamin is Irvington. And it's always why we've stayed there and maintained it. Most people wanted us to move to Scenic Hudson Park when it was open. And that was a great idea. But we never thought it would be a good thing to take what we're supposed to do away from the middle of the village. And so that's why we're there. And with the girls, I mean, I cannot say enough about the leadership of the troop leaders, the fire in the girls. They interviewed me a few weeks ago, and I left there. I was shaken because they were so prepared. I left. I said, did I say the right thing? I said, I hope I answered their questions right. So I would like to read you a statement from C.J. Riley. And if you do not know who C.J. Riley is, you're missing out. By the way, I'm sorry because I was listening to the Knick game in the car and I brought the wrong glasses. So they're green, red, blue, but they do work. But this is a and here's one person I'd like to mention. The person who first inspired me about the Benjamin Community Center, and I'm sure some of you will remember this name, was an unbelievable person by the name of Linda Carroll. Linda Carroll used to teach. She had our first toddler program at the rec center. And in between classes, she would come down and tell me stories and teach me things. She was amazing. I still have a gift she gave me before she moved, which was a hand-etched plate of the Benjamin Center, which I hide so no one takes it from me. But she deserves a mention here. So this is from CJ. And again, if you don't know CJ, you should, because he's made such a mark on the community and he's using the Girl Scouts to help him. These are his words. Over the past few years, the Girl Scouts in the O'Hara Nature Center have had the girls call the center its home base. From kindergarten brownies up to high school cadets. They have pioneered the art of tapping and making organic Irvington Woods maple syrup, to having student-led campouts, to helping with various kinds of stewardship programs, from research to the changing seasons' effect on trees and tree growth, to tree planting, cleanups, blazing new trails in the Irvington Woods Park. Simply put, the Girl Scouts have had their hands, both young and old, in all aspects of the development and stewardship of the O'Hara Nature Center and the Irvington Woods Park, which we are, as a village, are extremely proud of. And those statements ring true. We had a study done by the DEC, and it was determined we had 268 hazardous trees in our woods. And through CJ and volunteers, in less than a year, we've taken down 250 of them. We are now applying again for more grants with people like Chet Kerr, who always come looking for a way to help you. Again, I'll go back to Irvington has many great people who have followed what Miss Benjamin was all about. So I'm thrilled to be here. I'm embarrassed by the kind words, and I'm looking forward to the next couple of years. I'm not finished yet. I'm going to need the Girl Scouts quite a bit because we've got a lot of new things coming too. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Archino.
You're very welcome.
Please join Robert and Susan. We will pull up another chair for you. Everyone, please welcome Helen Ronsky, No? Oh, him. Okay. Too close to you. All right. Please welcome Helen Ronsky, the interim CEO of Girl Scouts Heart of the Hudson. Helen was called in to fix issues at our council and has made such a positive impact that we all want Helen to stay. Helen? What's your wisdom?
Oh, thank you. Can you all hear me all right? I'm not used to a microphone. I used to be a high school teacher, so I'm used to being down here and shouting at all of you. Thank you for inviting me today and having me be able to be part of this great celebration. You know, history is very important, and I've always been a tremendous supporter of anything historical because it tells us where we've been. It tells us why we've been where we are and where we're going. And without that history, part of our existence is unknown. And these girls brought to life today the story and the history of not only Girl Scouts in this community, but of the life, the passion of Isabel Benjamin. And so for that, thank you so much. And her spirit is here. If you can't feel it, her spirit is here all around us. The greatest honor she could have is to have this day being held and have all of you. And I love hearing your stories of your impressions and your experience. Thank you for that. And girls, it is such a great honor for me on this occasion to present you with my CEO patch. This I present to girls that I meet out in the field who are doing the work of Girl Scouting every day. We have 22,000 members in this council, Girl Scouts, Heart of the Hudson. 14,000 of those members are girls. Almost 4,800 are you sitting in the audience, the adults that make this work, that believe in the Girl Scout mission, and that is to serve God and our country, to help people at all times, and to make the world a better place. God knows we need to get our country in a better place. So girls, if you could come forward, I'd like to make that presentation. Yeah, just wait back. Careful. Elena? Yep. Lily? Congratulations. And
Thank you.
congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Helen. Won't you please join us? And Gareth, will you please join us as well? We have a few minutes and we would like to open this time to questions from the audience. Please raise your hand and Elena will walk up to you with the microphone so we can all hear your question. Who's first?
I do know the mic. Why did I follow the mic?
So it wasn't totally clear. What years was Mrs. Benjamin the troop leader, and what years were you in the Girl Scouts? From what age to what age?
I really don't want to know. No, I started in Girl Scouts in first grade, and Miss Benjamin died when I was in the 10th grade. And for all those years, I knew her, but through church especially.
Susan, I was just wondering, what was your favorite part of being a Girl Scout under Miss Benjamin?
My favorite part? Well, I'll tell you one thing. I spent a whole year trying to pass my sewing badge. I think I was the last one in my troop to pass it. But she took me aside and she tried to teach me, but I mean, they finally gave it to me because for effort.
I have a question for Barbara. What do you miss most about being a Girl Scout?
Well, what comes to my mind right away, they can hear me, okay. What comes to my mind right away are the girls. You know, I made the most wonderful friendships in Girl Scouts. And as I said, I'm in touch with a lot of them to this day. And very often, memories of Miss Benjamin come up, and our other leaders. We were all blessed, really, to have wonderful women who were our leaders and our guides, and they taught us so much in the Girl Scout program. And I'm delighted to see this young group here, these young ladies, and that Scouting seems to be alive and very well in Irvington, and I'm thrilled. Keep it going. And to the leaders, Keish and Catherine, good going. Keep it going. Thank you again.
What came first, the Girl Scouts, the Irvington Girl Scouts, or the s'more?
I think it's the Girl Scouts.
What came first, Irvington Girl Scouts or s'mores?
Actually,
is there an official answer to that question?
yeah, there actually is. The Girl Scouts did come first, and the first ever seen recorded recipe of a s'more was found in within the Girl Scouts. So, yeah. That is the answer to that question.
I was helping my son clean out a barn, and we stumbled upon a little book by Isabel K. Benjamin, from early days to twilight or words to that effect, and it's like a memoir of hers. And it was autographed to my father, William Murphy, who was former mayor and postmaster, in 1957. If you don't have a copy, you should get one. And if you don't know what else to do with yourselves, reproduce it.
Do you hear that? Everybody should get a copy of her book. It's a fantastic read.
It's a great read.
Well, she was a little bit scary, more often than not, and she was a strong leader. And most of all, I would say that all the Scouts really respected her, and we're very grateful for what she taught us.
I married somebody who knew her. Betsy often talks about her. And she found this picture of her when she was about 12 years old and a Girl Scout. Yeah. So she shared it.
My name is Nina Caparel Dawson. I'm a former Irvington Girl Scout. I'm here with some of my former troop members today. This has been a wonderful, uplifting, enthusiastic celebration. I can't find words to say how proud I am and how proud we are of what the girls have done. And what I want to do, and I'm going to walk up, and I hope I'm not going to embarrass Catherine, but Catherine, on behalf of our former leaders, and showing our gratitude to you for keeping Girl Scouts alive in Irvington, please accept these flowers. Thank you so much. Yeah, Catherine. One thing that we did as Scouts, and the girls mentioned it, we traveled a lot. We went on a lot of trips. And my former troop has taken a donation, and we'd like to present it to Troop 1720. And we hope you get to Savannah very soon. Thank you, girls.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. That's a big deal. Thank you. No, we didn't.
Okay, question for Elena, Lily, and Suhani. Why did you choose Isabel K. Benjamin for your presentation?
Well, we chose to research about her because not everyone knows about her. So we felt it was very important to have a presentation and honor her. And so now everyone here knows about her and everything that she did for Irvington.
Yeah, in the beginning of us trying to sort of figure out what we wanted to do for our silver award, we were kind of flipping between things until we came across, I think, the plaque, an Isabel K. Benjamin plaque was what first brought the attention to us. And then from there, we just continued down that idea and found research, archives.
And here we are standing today.
Do we have any more questions?
One thing, while you see if there is, one of the ways we can all honor her is on May 29th. We are once again bringing the Memorial Day Parade back to Irvington, which at one point used to be an enormously important day. Through a lot of the scrapbooks I have, the history is amazing, and Nina Dawson is one of the committee members that's been working. We think we have a great event planned for this year, so if you're around and you can participate and you'd like to honor her, come out to be part of Memorial Day at 10 a.m. on May 29th.
I have been so impressed and amazed with this presentation, both in the devotion that the Girl Scouts have added to our knowledge and experience, and particularly to Isabel Benjamin, who fitted the role in a way that is part of our lives. I'm Carolyn Stiefel. I had the privilege of writing the history of the Church of St. Barnabas, where we are now. And it has been, we moved to Irvington from Manhattan in 19 100, somewhere in there. A very long time ago. And this church has been actually the entire center of our life in this community. And I realize not one of us can be everything to all people in the community. The Girl Scouts were something I missed for a lot of other reasons. I loved the faculty in the Irvington schools. They were amazingly understanding and supportive and creative about what they did. And we talk about, well, we don't need churches anymore. We believe in God in so many ways. When you come back here, you know that the presence that has inspired everything that we do is very spiritually guiding us and cherish us. So in whatever ways we do it, from the Girl Scouts to the Historical Society to voting our election, and the leadership of this community has been inspiring to me and to many of us here, in forever ways that we do it. We thank the Girl Scouts amazingly for what they've done.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Carly. From your lips to God's ears to our hearts. Our hearts, I know, are full right now. And as we bring this afternoon delight, this presentation to close, I do again extend a very warm welcome to all of you to stay for Ice Cream Sundays. Now, there are two ways to get into Colwell Hall. One is you can dig, but by the time you get there, all the ice cream will be gone. Or you can go straight out the back doors along the corridor to Colwell Hall, or you can go out the main doors and across the parking lots and the steps. Both ways are open. And remind the sponsor of the ice creams is Pennylit. So Pennylit have generously provided the ice cream this afternoon. Do we have the proprietors in the room right now? They're back with the ice cream. So you can thank them. Gosh, and yes, please go.
Just want a few remarks for the Historical Society.
Oh, you know what, my friends? This is all so important. So would you mind sweetening us up with a few remarks?
Yeah, and thank you all for joining us today. And I have to say, I didn't know Ms. Benjamin, but your presentation brought a few tears to my eyes. You drew a beautiful picture of her. I wish I had known her. And thank you, Keach, for putting this all together. I just want to give you a heads up on what's in store for us all through the Historical Society. On May 21st at 2 p.m., Professor Pat Bonamy will be presenting a program on how the New York colony prefigured the future United States. Professor Bonamy will explain how early New York, with its ethnic and religious diversity, turbulent politics, and unique geography, provides the best example of what the nation would become. Her book will be available for purchase there at the event. And this will be at the Irvington Library, again, May 21st at 2 p.m., no registration required. On May 31st, at the Irvington High School Library CPR room, Dr. Scott Mosenthal will lead tomorrow's Historians, a group of high school students who will be presenting their outstanding papers and will lead a lively discussion on the topics they introduce. And on June 4th at 2 p.m. via Zoom, the author, Claire Prentice, will present The Strange Tale of the Wendell Family, who had a home right here in Irvington. They were the richest New York City real estate family during the Golden Age, the Gilded Age. And since this is a virtual program, you'll need to sign up to receive the email invitation for the event at our website, irvingtonhistoricalsociety.org. And while you're there, Please sign up to become a member if you haven't done so already. All of our events, programs, and exhibits rely on your support. And that's it for me, but so please join us all for some ice cream and have a good rest of your day.
So we would like to thank Helen Ronsky, Susan Watson, and Barbara Carosi and Joe Martino for speaking today, for answering questions, and for helping us with this project.
Always a first. We're done. We're done.